Thanks very much for that introduction, Colette, and I'd start by saying, as a Kerry man, I can't actually give an unbiased opinion as to whether they are the real capital or not. So I'm just going to speak today just on some of the measures that we implemented over the last 18 months in creating people and business-friendly places. So I'm going to start with a very quick snippet of a video from the development plan.
Cork City is on the cusp of significant change as it emerges as an international city of scale. The draft Cork City Development Plan, Our City, Our Future, sets out key objectives and planning policies that will shape transformative development of the city to 2028 and beyond. Informed by best international practice and evidence-based studies, it is anchored in sustainability, climate resilience, social inclusion and quality of life. Importantly, this plan will facilitate the construction of 20,000 new homes by 2028. Green spaces and the further embracing of the city's rivers and their tributaries are given particular significance. The plan's approach is based on the 15-minute city model, allowing residents to meet most of their needs within easy reach of their homes by creating jobs, housing, green spaces and transport facilities in existing built-up areas. Public engagement has shown that this is what residents want, a viable city of neighbourhoods. Cork City is on the cusp of significant change as it emerges as an
As you said, Colette, Cork City seemed to be able to respond very quickly to the changing requirements, and part of the reason for this is because we had a Cork City Centre strategy which ran from 2014 to 2019, so we had been working for a number of years on implementing the goals and objectives of that strategy, and it was really about enhancing the experience in Cork City, be it the visitor, resident, worker, trader experience. There would be some of those goals that we wouldn't have been able to implement. We might have got a bit of pushback against them, particularly maybe around the pedestrianisation. So when we were coming out of COVID and the country was reopening, it was an opportunity to implement and accelerate the implementation of some of these measures. So these measures, when they were put together, were branded as Reimagine Cork. I suppose this is just to give a sense of scale of Cork City Centre, where the majority of these initiatives were implemented in comparison to the overall administrative area that Cork City Council is responsible for. So, with everything, there are key challenges and there are principles that you would like to work towards. For anyone that has visited Cork, you'll be well aware of the fact that it has narrow historic streets, so the challenge there was the space that was available for the various interventions we wanted to undertake. Like everyone else, we were dealing with conflicting demands. COVID was there. Pedestrians, cyclists, vehicles, residents, everyone was looking for use of the space, but in a safe environment. And then there was the communication challenge, because it was an ever-changing environment. It's only 18 months ago, but we just remember on a week-to-week basis wondering what the next message was coming. One of the things that we did with our initiatives is we discussed them with a couple of groups, such as age-friendly groups and access groups, to make sure that some of the measures were fit for purpose. But we also discussed them with a clinical psychologist as well, because we were very aware of the fact that this was a public health matter, and that public health would have been watching what was happening in China, Italy and mainland Europe, and that they could give us some guidance which was going to, I suppose, better inform us in relation to decisions that we were going to make around messaging and actions. So we set up kind of a framework of key principles: safety, social distancing, accessibility, amenity, the functional requirements of business. We ourselves wanted to be rapid and agile in our reaction to emerging needs. We wanted to try and get out and get some quick wins, so do it on a phase basis. And as with everything, consultation was very important. But we put that framework together to give staff confidence in regard to the initiatives that they were proposing, and that also we were accepting that there was going to be an element of risk as well. So we were opening the city, and people were anxious to use the amenities and use the space, but we were also trying to get people back into the city to support business. And this is just a snapshot of 8 streets in the city centre. And what it shows is that the majority of the businesses are independently owned. So they were at risk. They were struggling as a result of being closed, mightn't have had the online presence that some of the major retailers would have had. So we were very mindful that we were going to be supporting the existing businesses. And this is just a slide of some of the messaging that we used as we were welcoming people back into the city. And again, this was guided by some advice from public health. We wanted it to be safe and reassuring, and we were trying to avoid the stark danger messaging. We wanted to encourage people to get back into the city. So the interventions, they were a suite of interdependent measures designed to support the enhanced and extended pedestrian priority in the city centre. So what did they look like? We pedestrianised 17 streets. We installed new bike parking. We put in more cycle lanes. We granted more street furniture licences. We worked on the greening of the city. We rolled out urban parklets across the city centre. We put in city trees. And to do that, we had to do things like temporary footpath extensions to facilitate this kind of reimagination and reorientating of Cork. And again, just touching on the messaging, just to keep it friendly and welcoming, but also highlighting the fact that everything had to be done in a safe manner. So we pedestrianised 17 streets, but that didn't just happen overnight. At the very outset, as we were reopening, we pedestrianised these streets under the Garda power, so they were pedestrianised for 3 months. It gave us a lot of space to work with so that people could come in and feel safe, and it was decided to further extend this pedestrianisation, and we did that for a further 6-month period using the powers under the Roads Act. Now, at this stage, we decided it was probably worthwhile looking at the permanent pedestrianisation of the streets, so we went to public consultation about that. Now, some people would have argued that we had already proved that it would work and we should just do it, so we got a bit of criticism about that. Why didn't we just drive ahead, permanently pedestrianise it? But we went for public consultation just so that we could avoid those unintended consequences. So the feedback was overwhelmingly positive. It was presented to the council, and the decision was made to permanently pedestrianise those 17 streets. So this is just an image of how other interventions were implemented. We increased the bike parking facilities, so we converted on-street car parking spaces into bike parking spaces, and we looked at reusing and repurposing some of the unused public spaces. We delivered over 4 kilometres of cycle lanes around the city centre, and that's just a map of it there, and the different colours just indicate whether it's a 2-way system or 1-way system. But we also put in a lot of bollards around the cycle lanes as well, just to protect the cyclists. We were trying to bring in people to the city as well, and to enjoy the attractions that are available there. So we actually got all the attractions, the cultural attractions together to collaborate, because they were reopening, and we felt it was a good opportunity for them to share their knowledge and their experience and their plans. And out of that collaboration, they came up with a joint messaging about the reopening. They also came up with another initiative about cross-selling promotion, whereby if you visited one attraction, you get a 10% discount at the other attraction. And this year then we launched a very successful Playful Culture Trail, which was geared at bringing families and children into the cultural attractions. And there were goodie bags and scavenger hunts and things like this available for the children. And we introduced them to Blaheen the lizard there at the bottom right. And the kids were able to play hide and seek with her because she was hitting around the cultural attraction. It proved very popular on the ground, and it got a lot of traction on social media as well. And I'd say we might see Blaheen being reinvented for other initiatives that we might have. People looking at the news probably thought Cork was the hungriest place in Ireland, because every image seemed to have people sitting at the table, outdoor eating. So yes, it was an aim to try and expand that alfresco dining experience and to have the capacity for 1,000 customers. So we saw a lot of applications coming in for street furniture licenses, and what we did was we assessed them as they came in, just to see whether any clusters were developing on streets, because we were very conscious that, again, there was only limited space. So where we saw clusters develop on streets, we engaged with them on a street-by-street basis with the applicants to just make sure that the space was going to be allocated equally. And also we got them to engage with the other parties on the street, the other outlets, be it retail or even residential, just so that they would discuss with their neighbours what the intentions were, and to get letters of support, which made it easier for us to facilitate the granting of the street furniture licences. What we also did in-house ourselves as well is we put a guide together, which the fire service put together and ran by colleagues in planning and roads, so that we could give it to anyone that was interested in applying for street furniture licences or putting out outdoor furniture, things that the council would have to consider in application. So it was a guide that they could use to make sure that their application was the best application they could make. In relation to the outdoor dining grants, in 2020 we processed 84, in 2021 we processed 227. And as part of those outdoor dining grants, we built into it ourselves a requirement for a COVID charter. So anyone that was going to get the grant had to sign up to the fact that they were abiding by the COVID charter. We will now be moving on to the outdoor dining weatherproofing scheme, which is funded by Fault Ireland. So we'll be rolling out more permanent weatherproofing infrastructure in the next couple of weeks across 5 streets to the tune of 1.3 million. We had to be creative as well to create the space. We weren't afraid of some stark interventions. Here we have a temporary modular footpath on McCurtain Street. It wouldn't look the prettiest, but what it did was it gave us space. It gave us space for pedestrians, or it gave us space for street furniture to be put on it. And at the same time, it's reusable as well, because this is taken from McCurtain Street, and we have an infrastructure project which will be starting in January next year, so this will be lifted and we'll be able to use it elsewhere as well. We're working on the greening of the city as well. We always put planters out in the city centre. If anyone's been in Cork over the summer, it's always lovely. But I think we nearly doubled the amount of planters we put out this year. We also rolled out 10 urban parklets across the city centre. So we had a call out for parklet partners. So these were businesses or community groups that actually took over the day-to-day maintenance of the parklets. So they look after keeping them clean and well maintained. They look after the planting and the replanting when necessary. But the key thing here is they don't belong to the parklet partner. They're not for the customers alone of the parklet partner. They're for everyone. They're rest spaces, but they become social spaces as well, where people meet. I suppose one of the key takeaways here is we didn't create any new groups or structures when we were looking at this. We just worked with the existing structures that were in place, got them maybe to meet more regularly, and we would have had a core group which would have been populated by elected members, representatives of the trader groups, hospitality sector, cultural sector, public transport and Garda Síochána, city council staff, the Cork Business Association, Cork Chamber as well. So it was just a case of, as I said, not adding more layers to it, just getting the existing structures to work together and come up with this joint intervention. So, like every other town, village, city in the country, it's all about getting people into your city or into your town or into your village. So we're trying to enhance the animation experience for people. So last year, Ardu commissioned 7 very recognised and renowned street artists who painted some great murals in the city, the iconic hurler one there, and they created a street map for people to follow the trail and look at these murals. Like the cinema coming soon, in the next 12 months, hopefully, we'll be rolling out the installation of 5 impactful street art pieces or artistic installations on 5 different streets in Cork City, which again is funded by Fault Ireland. And we're also developing Elizabeth Fort as an outdoor space as well for performance and just for use. So I suppose finishing up to the future of the city, we're towards the end now of a new city centre strategy. It's been drafted and we'd hope to have that signed off and completed by the end of this year. And there are other big projects that are due to start and come to fruition. We will build an event centre there. That will happen. There are regeneration and redevelopment projects in Bishop Lucic Park, the Grand Parade Quarter, South Main Street, and the Counting House at the Beamish and Crawford former brewery. And these are just some of the images of what that could look like. And we'll be developing rebuilding a state-of-the-art city library as well in that area as well. So a lot of work coming our way. A lot of the funding has been secured, so these projects will take place. So thanks very much for your time.